Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another
it!
one! Another one!
Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor.
Galloway finds Rob Finney, fires the three in.
He hit it.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. How are you? Hope you're having a great day and getting ready for the NCAA tournament action as it is about to get underway. We're here in Dayton, as you can see from the background of the hotel room. But the first four in here in Dayton begins tonight. Indiana, one of those teams, of course, taking on Wyoming at 9:10. And I still cannot get over this. They play this late game tonight at 9:10. They have to be in Portland tomorrow for practice and press conferences and all that stuff, and then play the next day. It's a tough row, but you got where you wanted to be, which is in the NCAA tournament. So congratulations to them for that. And let them go forward. Lots more coming on. Kevin Brockway will be joining me, of course, today. Mike DeCourcy, who, by the way, Kevin pointed out, was selected, I was determined to be the most accurate bracketologist, I guess, bracket analyst, as he likes to say. So we'll look forward to talking to Mike about that as well. Plenty more. Also, who else we got, John?
We'll have our good friend Chronic Hoosier.
Oh, Chronic's on. I want to make sure, Chronic will be along to get everything going as well. How's your day going? Kevin will be joining me here shortly. But good to see everybody jumping on. Forrest said he watched a Field of 68 podcast last night. 2 of the 3 picked Indiana to go to the Sweet 16. That's why they play the games. Yeah, and then there's Seth, what's his name, who picked them to lose to Wyoming. And I just don't see Indiana losing to Wyoming. Not that it's not possible. Everything's possible.
About Seth Davis?
Yes.
It's funny. He picks against all of the Big Ten teams, apparently.
Yeah, I think so. But that's okay. Somebody's got to do it, right? Yes. Howie, you have no idea it's going to be a long day. You are exactly right, my friend, because here we are doing the show now. And this game doesn't happen until after 9 o'clock tonight, which means it's scheduled to start at 9:10. Let's say it gets started on time at 9:15. The game won't get over until 11:15. Then you've got post-game pressers.
And we will have Charlie Miller after the game tonight as well.
Whew. Is Charlie going to be able to stay up that late?
Do what?
Charlie going to be able to stay up that late?
Well, remember, he's an hour behind, so it's
I know. He might be better to join us in the morning the next day.
We'll figure it out. We'll talk with him.
Yeah.
What he wants to do.
We have to. I mean, we may have. I mean, I'm not sure that everybody's going to be staying up for that. We will find out. Ross, how are you? Yeah, you're right. It is going to be a long day as well. Michelle says, I can't even read. I don't even have my glasses on, man. Replay of the IU Purdue game on IUBTN right now. There you go. Get you pumped up. Absolutely. David, how are you doing, sir? Appreciate you jumping on. Great to have you. Pseudonym name. 5 Lefts. How have you been, man? Dwayne, down in Evansville area. How are you guys doing? Appreciate you jumping on. Kevin Brockway is going to join me here anytime. And
I was checking to see if this worked.
Well, it only works if you get close to it. But
okay, can you hear me now?
Well, yeah, we're live. You don't have to do the test run.
Yeah, Kevin, you sound fine. The microphones themselves are
the best. I sit to get in the frame, or doesn't matter. Okay, this works out pretty well.
But yeah, it's just been This is going to be a long day for Indiana. They have to sit around now.
Yeah.
They went through the shoot around last night, which there was a few fans there at 6:45, 7, 8. So, which is kind of good that they had that late deal. But I really, how in the world can the NCAA expect a team to play a 9 o'clock game in Dayton, have to be in Portland for pressers the next day? That's the craziest thing I think I've ever seen in this tournament.
Well, you got to sleep on the plane, right? Layovers, which is the key. I mean, I think the charter apparently will pick them up from Dayton right after the game tonight and fly them out there. That's the way it works. So, this is a time of year where you've got these young kids are pretty resilient. They're going to sleep. You know what today is also? It's the Ides of March. Beware the Ides of March, March 15th. Make sure that nobody stabs you in the back there, Coyle.
The Ides of March. Perfect. Perfect day. Going back to Greek mythology, baby.
Yes, exactly. Et tu, Brute, right?
Et tu, Brute. That could happen tonight. Someone could sneak up and do something different on the court. But, Indiana taking on a Wyoming team. I don't know a lot about them, but we saw them practice a little bit last night. They're led by a big point guard, 6'7" point guard, Kevin.
Yes, Hunter Maldonado, who's a scorer and who kind of, likes to back guys down. I think he's averaging 18.4 a game. Does turn it over, though, 3.5 turnovers a game. So I think that's kind of the key for IU is for Finney and, of course, Xavier Johnson to put a little pressure on him, get on the ball defense. Maybe you can create some turnovers, some run out opportunities, which would be welcome in a game like this. Any easy baskets you get can be a bonus. So I think that's going to be one of the keys to the game. Go out. Indiana hasn't really shown press much, but maybe this is a game where you do it or show a little pressure at points in order to get the game going up and down a little bit because he likes to play slowly, apparently, also, according to his coach, Jeff Linder.
And then he's got a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, 3.5 a game. A lot of turnovers. A lot of assists, though, too. 6 assists. So, I mean, that turnover ratio is about 2-to-1. So he does play make and he sets up for others. And they've got, obviously, Ike Graham, the big guy down low.
Kind of a mirror of Trace Jackson Davis as far as size and whatnot.
Little thicker, maybe not as tall or as athletic or as springy, but kind of a thick guy, 6'9", 250. And apparently, Jeff Linder said is getting double teamed as much as any player in America. Certainly in his conference, you don't see too many guys of that strength and size. So I think that that's going to be interesting too. Do you single them? Do you double them? Can Trace handle them? Can Race handle them? Of course, IU switches also. So you're going to see different guys guarding them, the whole way through.
And the thing, though, with Indiana having played a full season of Big Ten basketball, of dealing with people like Hunter Dickinson and Kofi Coburn and E.J. Liddell, Edey, Travion Williams, they've dealt with big guys almost every game, it seems like.
Yeah, and they've you've learned how to play against those big guys as well and how to deal with them. But don't forget too, I think that's the thing, and I think it works on both sides too, is scouting report and tendencies. In the Big Ten, each other so much. Now you're going into a lot more of the unknown where you're dealing with one day of film and that's about it. So, but that can work in Indiana's favor too, because so many people know Trace Jackson Davis's tendencies. Wyoming doesn't know his tendencies. So I think it's going to work both ways in this matchup.
Indiana's a 4-point favorite. Some people are picking them to win. Seth Davis picking them to lose. My personal opinion is you just can't lose to a Wyoming right now. Especially you're trying to get this. You're in the tournament, but I don't think getting into the tournament losing to a Wyoming would be a great look for this Indiana team.
Yeah, if you're in the first four and you don't make the field to 64, I mean, I think it's generally a disappointment. But they did achieve that objective of making the tournament this year. Now you want to try to ride it and go as long as you can. And let's not forget, too, you were talking about Indiana's travel on a short turnaround. I mean, Wyoming crossed 2 time zones to get here on Sunday.
And if they were to win, they would have to go back.
Yeah, which is crazy, right? You know what I mean? But that's the nature of postseason basketball. The NCAA tournament, but you would have to think that they'll be hired. This is essentially a home game for Indiana, right? It's right across the Indiana border in Dayton, Ohio. There's going to be a lot of Indiana fans here. I'm sure, we even saw in the shoot around yesterday, some Indiana fans sprinkled around the building when they did the open shoot around. So people are going to be pretty fired up. People in the eastern part of the state are going to be able to come here and, kind of cheer the Hoosiers on in that Dayton arena, University of Dayton, where, former quarterback John Gruden, this guy is among their most famous alums. And it's also got a pretty neat basketball. It was pretty neat going around that arena yesterday and seeing all the different
I like the
pictures.
setup.
Yeah.
It's very unique. When you come in from ground level to get down, our entrance to the court is you just walk down this ramp that seems to go forever. It's like it's 2 levels down, carpeted ramp, and then you're on the floor. But it's just different. I like the setup. It looks like it's a great setup for fans.
Yeah.
This place is set up. They've got the flyers. They have the flight deck up there. That's a great. What does this place hold?
Think about 10 or 12,000.
I mean, this would be a very, very, very intimate. I've been here before. It's just been a while, but it's a great intimate setting for big games.
Yeah, and it's I'm guessing it's going to get pretty loud in there too, which will be interesting, and particularly if certainly you have a lot of Indiana fans in the building tonight, which I'm expecting you will. It's gonna get nice and loud there. Yeah, that ramp is kind of like, and it's steep too. It's like
that's an exercise getter on the way back.
On the way back, and on the way down, you got to be careful with your knees as well. It's a little bit of a steep ramp.
I'm serious. It's crazy. Plenty of comments coming in. James says, if IU can let's kick it up. I'm sorry, John. IU can play like they did in the Big Ten tournament. They could be a dangerous team in the NCAA tournament. No reason. That's absolutely. They just got to continue that play. There's no reason to think that they won't continue that play. They've got to this point, Kevin. It took them all season to get here. It took them the Northwestern suspensions and all of that to get here and to galvanize. And to me, that's the thing that they are finally, is they're galvanized.
Yeah, and I think Xavier Johnson too. You talk about the point guard, as Race Thompson called him, the head of the snake. 18 points and 6.8 assists his last 8 games. I mean, he's just a completely different player at the end of the season. And you often wonder if you would have been like that the whole season, how much different it could be. But I think he's the guy that is certainly playing at a very high level now. Gives them that third productive player to go along with Trace and Race. That's been a big boost and a big boon to them. And it's finally figuring out what Mike Woodson wants in terms of offensively as a point guard.
We've got to take a quick break, and we've got plenty more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat as it's game day in the NCAA tournament, coming to you live from Dayton, side of the first 4 in. We'll be back with that. Jim Coyle, Kevin Brockway here. Brought to you by our good friends at the WOW Network. Make sure you get your WOW Club card. You can go to either your app store in Apple or Google, either way, and get it. Look for My WOW Club. You can get it there or at mywownetwork.com. They host Southern Stone Restaurant and all the great places, Cape Bello, the Boardroom down in Bedford, and there's many more to come, like MBB's Marketplace, which is the former Wagon Wheel, up and going right now. And we'll be back with plenty more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Annex in Dayton right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting
Get DeCourcy. There he is.
Hello, Mike.
Hello, Mike.
The most accurate bracketologist in the country.
Yep.
I see you're in Dayton.
Yeah, we're doing it in stock with a breakfast.
You all right?
That was a biscuit.
Don't spill your coffee on air like you normally do.
No, I usually spill it everywhere, not on my equipment at least.
Yeah, anytime you do a remote, you spill your coffee.
But it's usually a $5 coffee that I have purchased.
That's true. Was this a free one from the Continental Breakfast?
Yeah. You know what? It's wild. the monitor is showing the volume coming through here.
It's just like you sound fine, but I can just tell it's not coming out of the headset because
That's
you
just
and Kevin.
weird. That's odd because it's showing the sound on when
Maybe
they talk.
Very weak. Like maybe the levels are up low or down low. Turn them up a little bit. You sound fine, but you really don't need to change anything unless you just want to try it.
Nope. How are you doing, Mike?
I'm well. Obviously busy, but things are good. Can we make sure that we wrap at or before 8:25 today?
Yep. John, make sure you stay on that for me, will you please?
Yeah, we'll take our first break at 10 like usual, and then we'll be out at 25.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mike, are you traveling to any of the games this week?
Yeah, I'm going to Greenville. I'm going to follow Krzyzewski wherever he goes. And the NCAA very kindly decided to send him to San Francisco, which wasn't my ideal. Chicago is right up the road, guys.
At least you're not following Woodson.
Yeah, my
yes, but you got to go to Portland, right? If they can win this game against Wyoming, to go to Portland.
Yeah, they've got to be in Portland. They play the 9:00 game tomorrow night, and then have to be in Portland for pressers tonight, and pressers and practice tomorrow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then play on Thursday.
Right. Yeah, I will tell you that when I was doing my we can talk about this on air because I think it's an interesting.
Woodson is used to those back-to-back turnarounds in the NBA when they have the
what
2 days and 2 day.
That's true. Woodson might be used to that. All right, here we go.
Now a part of the Rivals Network. The Hoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, here on this Tuesday. It's game day, joined now by the nation's most accurate bracketologist, Mike DeCourcy, as he was awarded that, as Kevin pointed out to me yesterday. You were the most accurate, Mike. I don't know if you saw that or not, but
of course, I didn't miss that. Now that is among the people who are widely distributed. Let's say.
That's the best of the best. Let's just say that. There's a page called the Bracket Matrix, which aggregates all brackets that are publicly distributed through websites and such. And there were, I think, 210 in the end. The people who do it weekly, it usually starts at some point in the season. Might be 100 or less, and then more people gather and continue. When we were going into Selection Sunday, I believe the number was somewhere around 140 that were putting up brackets daily, and then maybe it was 150, and then by the time we got to the end, there were like 210 on the bracket matrix, and I finished 10th among those 210. So it was a good year, and I will tell you that the entire time that I was doing it, I was vexed. I thought this was the hardest that I've ever had to deal with, and of course, I've only done it for 3 years, and it felt like so hard, and because the difficulty in distinguishing between those last 4 teams, I thought more data would help this year. And ultimately, I guess it did. But when I was doing it, I didn't feel great confidence in those last 4. And the one I missed, Texas A&M, I thought they had done enough to grab one, and that Notre Dame would be the team that would fall out because of Richmond beating Davidson and Davidson being an at-large now. I thought that it would be Notre Dame that would fall out, and ultimately the committee decided Texas A&M, and I didn't agree with that.
And if I were an Aggie fan, I would be very, very disappointed. But yeah, I think the worst part about that was that the resumes between Notre Dame and A&M weren't that dissimilar. You could find holes in both. But A&M had a couple, 3 elite wins. Notre Dame had the one against Kentucky. And they played each other. I mean, they played each other. And it wasn't close. How do you pick Notre Dame over A&M when they played each other? Neither has a really strong resume, but they played each other, and one team beat the other. I think it was 73-57. I might have that score wrong, but I don't think it was all that close.
Plus, Texas A&M plays in the SEC, which I hate to admit it, but they were one of the toughest basketball conferences in the country this year.
They were. It was different. It was a different kind of tough, but ultimately they conquered that different kind of tough. The SEC was a massively 2-tiered league. Maybe 3 if you want to call it. They had the high-end teams, Tennessee, Auburn, Arkansas, Alabama, and LSU to a lesser extent. And, of course, Kentucky. And then at the bottom, it was really bad. I mean, the kind of bad that the Big 12 didn't have, the Big 10 didn't have for the most part. The Big East didn't have. It was really bad. And that's so when people talk about let's say, I don't even know what A&M's record was, but let's say they were, 11 and 9 or 12 and 8 or whatever. That doesn't always mean a lot, because maybe you got to play Georgia twice, and maybe you got to play Mizzou twice. There's 4 right there. And actually, I believe that A&M let one of those go. I believe they lost to Mizzou once. So that record itself doesn't mean a lot to me, but last weekend they get Auburn and Arkansas on consecutive days, and that adds up to a lot. I mean, you get 2 top 4 seed wins. I don't care when you get them, now or back in November. That's a lot, especially for a bubble team.
Yeah, I was surprised that they didn't make it in. Where did you have Indiana? Did you have them as an 11 or as the first 4 in?
Well, I believe I had them in the first 4 in my final bracket. They might have been before we had before we had the circumstance with Davidson and Richmond. They might have been a team that was out of the first 4 but pushed back in. Because of that, as originally I had Notre Dame and Texas A&M playing each other, ironically, again, and then I had Rutgers, Wyoming, and so I believe when we had that was my Sunday morning bracket. I believe when we went back to Davidson being an at-large, I think I might have had to slide Indiana down into that first 4, but either way, they were right in that neighborhood. And
I knew that they were. I thought that they were going to be an 11 seed. I thought they were going to get out of that first 4 in because simply playing in the Big Ten Conference and in what they had done at the end. But the more I hear, the committee just doesn't factor in what you're doing at a certain time. It's like they blindly look at everything, which I don't agree with, because I don't care what you did in November. If you have grown and become a much better team in February, that changes. But anyway,
it doesn't change though, Jim. It doesn't. And people say, well, why doesn't it? Okay, so it's only been 12 months. UCLA lost their last 4 games last season. They lost to Oregon State in the conference tournament. They lost to SC on the final day of the regular season. 4 consecutive games. Where'd they end up? They won 5 games and made the Final Four. So people think that you're a different team. You are and you aren't. You might have grown, but maybe you grew and still lost. I mean, I talked to Mick Cronin about this a few weeks ago. He didn't feel they played badly in those games. They just didn't finish. They missed a free throw, blah, blah, blah. But you could lose all those games and be just as good, or you could win all those games and not be good. So you have to count the games equally. It's the only reasonable way to do it. But you can't stop counting, and I don't know whether they do or not, but the evidence suggests that they stop counting. But let me point some things out about the evidence that we get from various exercises. They did their bracket reveal, okay, back in the third week of February, week after the Super Bowl. So it's like around the 21st. We had 3 weeks to Selection Sunday. And in that reveal, they ranked Tennessee, which at that point was 5-7 against Quad 1 as a 3 seed. And they ranked Wisconsin, which at that point was 10-4 against Quad 1. Now, some of those numbers shuffle around because teams fall and rise and your wins move. But at that point, they were 10-4 against Quad 1. And they ranked as a 4 seed. So it seemed very metrically driven because obviously Wisconsin, a lot of close games, doesn't win as many blowouts, that sort of thing. So their metrics aren't as good. Tennessee had that, and Tennessee was higher. And so they got that. But then if you look at this bracket, when they finally came out with the real one, they went the exact opposite way. They didn't follow the metrics as well. They went with, Wisconsin got a very favorable placement. Their seed list, Wisconsin, I believe, if I remember correctly, Wisconsin was ranked ahead of Tennessee on the seed list. So it wasn't, it wasn't what we had come to expect. Let me find this. I want to be 100% sure that I'm right about this. I think I am. That they ranked. They ranked Wisconsin as the number 9 overall team, the first team on the 3 line, and Tennessee as the number 10, the second team on the 3 line. So they went the exact opposite of what they suggested they were going to do. And this was after. Now remember, after that reveal, Tennessee goes out and they beat Auburn and Kentucky, and then they win the SEC tournament by beating Kentucky again in the semis. And what does Wisconsin do? They lose to Nebraska, and they lose in the quarters of the conference tournament, was it? Because they weren't there on Saturday, so they lost in the quarters. And so I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. How do you get from point A to point B? It doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah, that's the thing, Kevin. Is I know for Indiana, their strength of schedule was also not in their favor. It was very abysmal. I didn't realize how bad it really was. But their non-conference strength of schedule, rather, is what I'm talking about. It was bad. But of course, Mike Woodson wanted it that way his first season, and I understand. But man, they've got to do a better job with that as well.
Yeah, but they did have the Notre Dame win, obviously, which carried a lot of weight. You can almost thank Mike Bray and Notre Dame for the season that they had to kind of put Indiana over the hump and get him that one quad 1 win. I mean, Syracuse was not as good as maybe a thought, right? People thought they would be, but that was at least a road test. But I agree. Next year they're facing Kansas, as you know, in Kansas, so that's going to be a upgrade schedule-wise for the Hoosiers. So I think that the Big Ten, though, when you play 20 conference games too, I think that certainly boosts your overall strength of schedule in a conference like the Big Ten that had 9 bids in. And Mike, I'm curious, the second year in a row with 9 bids in the Big Ten, what does it say about the league, you think?
Well, it's interesting because they're such different years to me. I mean, the previous 2 years, 2020, I thought was, in terms of depth of competition, 12 teams were terrific. I mean, Minnesota that year with Daniel Oturu finished in 12th place, I believe. They were the second team to miss. I don't remember my final bracket in that year, but I think I had 10 teams making it. I know we had 12 going into late February that had a chance. And then ultimately, I know that Wisconsin was kind of excused from the discussion, and I can't remember who was around 11 at that point, which team that was. But it was really deep. And then last year, although we didn't have as much non-conference competition for them to really establish it, I thought last year was really strong at the top. I mean, Illinois was tremendous, got a 1 seed. Ohio State was terrific, got a 2 seed. Purdue was a 4, I believe. Michigan was a 1 also. It was stronger in that sense. Now, again, they didn't have as much opportunity to establish that strength or reinforce it because of the COVID situation. We had fewer non-conference games, fewer games altogether, but it was a different. I never felt like that. I still don't believe that the Big Ten was the best conference in college basketball this year. It was the Big 12. And that league had 0 bad teams in it. That's very rare. I don't remember there ever being a situation quite like that, where there was absolutely no one who couldn't play or even. And I think Kansas State wasn't that far from a bid. I mean, few other games go their way. Now, obviously, that would have been someone else having to lose, and maybe they fall out. But they weren't that far from a bid. Oklahoma State would have probably competed for one if they had been not banned. Oklahoma did compete, got nicked in the end, and I think they were probably the 3rd team out from the committee, if I remember correctly. So that was the strongest league. They have 2 number 1 seeds, and they have depth at the bottom. This wasn't that in the Big Ten. It was a really good year. And, maybe this will be the year where even though they didn't perform quite as well, they'll flip the script on last year and go out and do much better in the tournament than they did a year ago when I think they had better teams. One thing this league has, more stars than anybody, and maybe that helps them in March. Talents like Keegan Murray and what Trace did over the weekend, showing us again how great he can be and certainly is at the moment. Kofi and Johnny Davis, just it's an EJ Liddell. That could have been your first All-America team. I got votes for Sporting News. I got votes for every one of those players except one on our first team, and we had 3 of them on there.
It's amazing. Mike DeCourcy is joining us from the Sporting News, Fox and BTN, along with Kevin Brockway. We got plenty more coming up here. It is game day in the NCAA tournament. Indiana's taking on Wyoming tonight. We've got plenty more coming to you here from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios Annex. Brought to you by our good friends at Feast Market and Cellar in Bloomington. Go by and check out their great wine and cheese selections. We're back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
An Evansville tradition.
What?
I can't hear
Can Kevin not hear any of my production? Is that what he's saying?
Yeah, I can't hear Mike. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He can or can't?
He can't hear you all, so that's
Okay.
all right.
Oh, he can't hear Mike either.
You can ask
Okay, yeah, that
questions.
is
That's all
right.
right.
Hold on, I'll get that fixed. I got a little something to change that.
Woofer.
Splitter. You. Where are you heading today, Mike?
And I'll be here.
Oh, you still. Say something, John.
Hey, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
One more time.
Hello?
Oh, yeah.
Kevin, can you hear me?
All right. Try it again. See if Kevin can hear you.
Kevin, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Perfect. There we go. Good fix.
Okay.
See if you can hear Mike. Mike, go ahead and say something.
He should be. Yeah, if he can hear.
Yeah,
me.
I can say whatever you want me to say. Can you hear me, Kev?
Okay, I can hear you now. Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure. You never know.
Quick fix, baby.
I was going deaf that first segment. Yeah, just asking you a question without even hearing what you had to say.
No wonder you're being so quiet.
I didn't even think about it.
You should have heard what I said about you. Why you couldn't
Oh
hear?
my God! Yeah,
Let me change that back.
This thing, Brockway is an idiot.
All right, here we go.
Because you get the best deals. And right now, it's the Certified Dream Deal Sales Event. Get 0.99% APR financing for well-qualified buyers on all 2017 through 2021 Honda Certified pre-owned Accords, Civics, CRVs, HRVs, and Pilots. See dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indie Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back. We are in Dayton for the NCAA tournament. First four in. Jim Coyle along with Kevin Brockway. Great Mike DeCourcy joining us from the Sporting News, Fox and BTN. The national stage is about to take place, Mike, after we get past these play-in games. And then this is, I think, looking to be one of the, I don't know if you'd say funnest, but definitely most intriguing tournaments I've seen in a while. But you just mentioned a minute ago how the Big 8 is, or Big 12 rather, Big 8. Big 12 is that's how many teams do they have in that league now?
I think they have 12.
Do they have 12 in
No, 10. They have 10. They have 10.
But yeah, they're solid. But there's nobody that's unbeatable. Even Gonzaga, who is looked to be one of the best teams, they're not unbeatable. So no one has this aura that Gonzaga had last year. I think Gonzaga had more of an aura about them.
They were better. They were a better team.
It's just not there this year anywhere, which is great, which is nothing but parity, which I love. I have no clue who was going to win the national championship.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's what I've been talking about for several weeks, that there's no team that in this tournament that isn't significantly flawed. Probably Arizona is the least significantly flawed team, but I can find you a massive weakness in every team in this field, and we usually have teams that are pretty much solidly set. I mean, like Kansas is the number 3 overall seed, I think, something like that. Kansas basically plays 3 guys regularly and then rotates a cast of thousands in among the other 2 positions. They played over the weekend with Remy Martin, their transfer from Arizona State, who's had a very up and down year, to say the least, for Kansas. And he played very well over the weekend. He'd been injured for a while, in and out of favor with Bill Self and the Kansas public. And he played last weekend for the first time in a while, and he played really well. Gives them another option, but they seem to need as many options as you can give them because they only have 3 guys that they throw out there and they know what they're going to get, more or less. And yet they're a number 1 seed. I mean, when does that happen? You look back at pick any number 1 seed of the last 10 years, and you're going to see the same 5 guys, what they do well, etc. It's not this year. It's not there for them. That's why I talked about Arizona and obviously Gonzaga. Those are set teams, but they do have weaknesses. Gonzaga very heavily reliant on the 3-point shot for a good portion of their offense, and they can be a little streaky. When they're on, man, they are hard to deal with. When they're making shots, and you add that to the fact that Drew Timme can score inside, and Holmgren is such a unusual player to deal with, 7 feet, maybe 180, 190 pounds. I can tell you this. I said this the other day. He is the thinnest great college basketball player I've ever seen, without question. He is that. But I did see last year with Timmy and Baylor in the championship game a struggle to be competitive, to be successful. Last year I saw a struggle to be successful against teams that could really body him, that could get very physical, which obviously Baylor did extraordinarily well last year. And then this year, I didn't really think about it. You don't see that much in the West Coast Conference. They played Alabama, which is perimeter oriented, and they played Duke, which is, Mark Williams is not he's not Kofi Coburn. He's a dynamic shot blocker in the middle. They played Texas Tech, which isn't tall. I think Texas Tech's tallest regular is around 6'8", maybe a shade to 6'9". So they played good teams, but they didn't play teams with great physical power in their front court. And then they played St. Mary's in their final regular season game, and they threw a lot of a body at Timmy, and he backed down. I mean, he didn't compete in the first half, especially when they were falling behind. They were better in the WCC championship game in Vegas last week. But I look at them and I say, okay, what if they face a Purdue? What if they, obviously wouldn't get to them wouldn't get to Illinois until the end. But, what if you had somebody like that, or a Kentucky with Oscar Tshiebwe? How would that work for them? There's not much of that in their draw, which is one of the reasons I think they'll make the Final Four. But if they get there and they had to deal with Purdue's bigs, would it be a problem? It could be. Now, Purdue's got to go through a difficult region and disguise their own massive weakness with their defense. But if it happened, Gonzaga could be in trouble.
Hey, Mike, give us a little read on that St. Mary's team, because that's the team that Indiana can play next. That Randy Bennett's team, I guess, are rugged defense. You're talking about them being physical against Gonzaga.
Yeah, it starts with their defense, and that's Randy Bennett's, primary way of doing things. His teams are gonna guard you. They're gonna be physical. They are 9th in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency. That's a really strong number. Logan Johnson, a dynamic guard who began his career at Cincinnati, really long, very good defender. Not a great offensive player, but can, if you don't pay attention to him, he can hit you with a quick move. He is he's an above the rim kind of guy for a 6'2" guard. I love the name of the guard, Tommy Kuzi. You hear Kuzi and you think Bob. It's not spelled like that, but he's a very fine player, tough kid, does a great job. They have a 6'10" center, Matthias Toss, so he can add some physical presence inside. They have a really strong defensive team. It will not be a fun journey for the Hoosiers if they're able to get to that game, but they do have, that offensive ability that Trace has shown. Trace is playing like a guy who wants to keep playing, and that he would be a challenge for St. Mary's to defend.
And St. Mary's I'm sure they're tired of living in the shadow of Gonzaga. But speaking of that shadow, is there any pressure on Mark Few to win the national championship with as much success that they've had coming out of the Northwest area?
If you mean from the fan base, no. I mean, obviously they'd love to do it, but the fan base for Gonzaga understands that what's happening there is not normal. They get it. They get that they've been blessed with this basketball miracle, and that what Mark does is amazing, and they are delighted to be a part of it. And obviously, I think the pressure now is, well, we got another chance. We're good enough. We know we're good enough, especially in this field. We're good enough. It's the pressure of the opportunity. Will you have another chance based on their program history? They probably will. They had a great chance in 19, ran into a Texas Tech team that was playing a high level of defense and didn't play well in the regional final and didn't get to Didn't get to Minnesota that year, and could have got, if they'd gotten there, they could have won. I mean, they were as good as Virginia that year. They had two, Rui Hachimura, a great player. They had a couple of first-round picks. They could have won it then. They could have won it in 17 if they played better. They didn't get much out of their freshman center Collins, who was probably their most talented player. They got in foul trouble. They ended up, they were down a point, I think, with 50 seconds left. So they could have won then. Last year, they could have won it if somebody beaten Baylor, like Villanova almost did here in the Sweet 16. I don't think Baylor was a good matchup for them, and it didn't go well. But it's the opportunity. You're here. You have a good enough team. You have Chet Holmgren only for one season. He's not going to be there next year. They'll have another good team next year, but they won't have a guy like that, the guy who might be the number 1 overall pick. You want to get it done. And so there's nobody at Gonzaga is going to say, fire Mark Few, because there's somebody else out there that can do what he's done, turn a successful mid-major program, only, not a long-term successful mid-major program, but one that had found a nice group that did great in the tournament in 99 and made the Elite Eight, and then turned that spark into an absolute conflagration. I mean, it's a program that has become one of the dominant programs in college basketball. I mean, when you think about it, it's crazy, but you think about them in the same sentence with Kentucky and Duke and Carolina and Arizona and UCLA and Indiana. I mean, Indiana would be flattered at this point to be considered in a group with Gonzaga, based on the success the Zags have had over the last 20 years.
Absolutely. Mike, can't wait to talk about this again next week. We'll see what has happened after the first rounds of this thing and who's in and who's out. Looking forward to it, and I can't wait. The great Mike DeCourcy, make sure you're following him because he knows what he's talking about. Mike, have a great first weekend.
Jim, Kevin, have fun tonight. And presuming it goes well, good luck on your flight to Wyoming, to Oregon. It's a good thing, though, your bosses can't say, you can drive that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a rough one there. Yeah. Mike DeCourcy, thank you so much, sir. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat, brought to you by our good friends at Remax Realty. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore and her 2 decades of experience there. Reach out to her. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
All right. So you'll have a break, or excuse me, a segment by yourself here. Oh, excuse me, man, I had a stretch. And then you'll have chronic after that.
This is going to be a long day.
Oh, yeah. Also, while I'm thinking about it, you're going to have Will tomorrow instead of me. But it's the only day this week. Just tomorrow. What do you want me to tell Charlie? Do you want me to wait? Because right now he's standing by for tonight.
I just don't see the point in the purpose. That game's not going to get over until 11:15. Then the post-game press.
That's without even the potential of overtime.
But forget the overtime. Then you got the post-game pressers.
Yeah.
That's another half an hour.
I'm on board with whatever you want to do. You're the boss.
Huh?
We got a guest if you want to do one. If not, then.
But do you think people are going to be up watching? I mean,
one of your commenters said he will be.
Holy crap!
You gotta think they're all going to be watching the game that late. It's really up to you, though. Like I said.
Yeah, but they got to go to bed at some point.
And that's true. Plus, we won't
if
be
there
able
wasn't, if it wasn't the lull in between, it would be different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or I agree with you.
But the fact that I'm actually here covering the game and going to the pressers,
Howie's saying, yeah, after game show. See, these every time we talk it up, they're wanting to do it. I will check in with you about it tonight at before the actual game starts. I'll ask you at 7 and see what your thoughts are. You let me know what you want to do.
You need to do Robert. The truth says he will. Man,
I can just do it with Charlie by myself unless you just don't want me to do it.
No, I can join you all.
All right. Look, what we should ask him is if they lose, do they want to do a post-game show? That's the real question.
Or you can do it by yourself. I don't care.
If maybe should we just do a post-game show pending on result? When we do a show, lose we don't.
There you go.
That's the deal. If Indiana wins, we will do a post-game show. If not, we're not doing one. That's the final answer. And I'll start it early with Charlie while Jim is doing, presser stuff and all that good stuff. So with that being said, let's come back.
You can be done by the time I get back.
We might be done by the time we get back.
298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at any home.
This segment is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. You get a $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Annex. We're here in Dayton, Ohio, for side of the first four in for the NCAA tournament. Indiana takes on Wyoming tonight at 9:10 p.m. Brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry down in Sellersburg. If you're down that area, make sure you stop in and say hello to Dr. J. You need that championship smile, and that's what they can give to you. Kevin, it is do or die for Indiana tonight. They take on a very unfamiliar foe in Wyoming. No common opponents that I am aware of. They play out in the Pacific Northwest. West Coast Conference, then the WCC or
Mountain
West,
Conference,
yeah. With Boise State and those types of teams.
Colorado State, San Diego State.
Doesn't mean that, they're here. So that means that they've had a decent season. What are they, 25-8, I think?
Yes, 25-8, yeah. And one of the most improved teams in the country. They won 14 games last year.
That's right.
So an 11-game difference. From a second-year coach.
And I don't care where you're playing or who you are. When you make an 11-game difference, that is a jump.
Oh, yeah, no question. And I think Wyoming, in watching Jeff Linder in the press conference, they look at this as a huge opportunity, right? Because it's going to be a primetime game, albeit on True TV, which, of course, from Impractical Jokers, right? That's a pretty good show. But people are still going to tune in, and you've got Indiana, so you're going to have eyeballs on that. So because Indiana always gets great ratings on television, so I think it's going to be they look at it as an opportunity. Hey, look, we can really showcase our program here, show the country what we're all about, how much we've improved during the course of the season. So I think they're going to be pretty fired up, get a chance to obviously get to Portland as well, go to that field and. They're going to be up. I don't think it's going to be that easy, but I do think that maybe the travel for them, it might wear on them in the last 10 minutes of the game. And I could see Indiana maybe pulling away in the last 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, Indiana, like I said, they've got Trace Jackson Davis, and Wyoming has his counterpart, but what they don't have is a Race Thompson to go along with that. And I don't think that Wyoming has seen the kind of defense all season that Indiana can play and has been known for, and to do that through the Big Ten. They're used to handling big guys, big teams, great guards. You've got Illinois, Wisconsin, all these teams that have good guards. So Indiana's used to playing with against good guards and big men. That's what the Big Ten is all about.
Yeah, you would think the whole battle-tested element of that. I will say that San Diego State, if you look at the metrics, is one of the best defensive teams in the country. So they have seen them, and they're pretty good. But on a consistent basis, they probably haven't seen the level of defense and athletes in Indiana.
And then offensively, it's going to be a question of, does Indiana continue what we've seen them do? And that has been playing very, very well offensively. They have been running the offense. They have been making so few mistakes. And, of course, that starts with Xavier Johnson, who is his turnovers have virtually disappeared while his assists have gone up exponentially. And if he can continue that, if Trace Jackson Davis can continue the type of play that he's had, the only thing that they're not getting is really key contributions from that somebody else.
Yeah, and you take a look at it. People kind of forget in that Michigan game with that comeback, it was really fueled by the defense. But that Michigan game, they were also 8 of 15 from three, right? And then you look at the Iowa game, they were 5 of 19. And, you hit one or two more three-pointers in that game, you end up upsetting them and going to the Big Ten Finals. And I'm watching Miller Kopp yesterday in the open shoot-around and against Air, and he's got such a pretty stroke, and he's hitting about everything. And you just wonder, game speed is so much different, right? But you're just still waiting for a guy like him or a guy like Parker Stewart to really break out and have one of those games where, they can hit 3 or 4 three-pointers, and take some of that pressure off the inside. And that's you never know in the postseason. I mean, heroes emerge out of nowhere. Maybe this is finally the time that one of those two clicks. If you're an Indiana fan, you certainly hope so. But that's been really what's missing is the three-point shooting. And, the thing is, and if you take a look at Indiana's losses this year, if you can't make threes, you better be able to defend the three-point line. And I think that was the Iowa game was so apparent, that imbalance of, 14 three-pointers to 5 three-pointers in their last loss. That kind of speaks to where teams have really got Indiana during the course of the season with that three-point line. So if you're not hitting them, you better get out there and guard them.
Yeah, because how many games this year was that just the difference? Indiana went, the Iowa game right there. That was the difference in not being able to hit those shots and Iowa hitting them down the stretch.
Yeah, no question. I mean, I think that's been the big bugaboo. And when you're talking about switching defense, you're talking about, what Mike Woodson is trying to do. I think that's important. Go out, guard that three-point line, make it a priority. Really, take that away. I think in Iowa that was something that they could have really done a better job of, and particularly down the stretch when you looked at that Iowa game and those 4 threes that they hit in the last 2.5 minutes. The last one by Bohannon was a lucky shot, but there were 3 others, or one where he sprung free, and defensively you have to be accountable there.
Yeah, and let's not – Iowa's a tough team. They were working their butts off to get those shots. And Iowa was a hot team. We knew that coming into that game. It's like, holy cow, they are really rolling. But anyway, so now we've moved on to the NCAA tournament. Indiana has to face a different style with Wyoming. They haven't – I'm trying to think. They haven't faced a point guard the size of Wyoming has that I'm aware of at 6'7" this season.
Yeah, Maldonado is really something. But I think you got to speed up the pace, right? You got to get the game a little bit quicker
for him. Try to
turn him over and trap him and make him uncomfortable. I think that's going to be one of the keys to the game. You've got to really get in on him. And I think, too, just because he's used to playing such a deliberate style, too. This might be a game where Indiana tries to speed Wisconsin up as a whole. I think the other good thing is George Geronimo looks like he's healthy, right? We saw him out there. Galloway still coming back from the injury. You've got Finnessy back. So you got a little depth, too. And that's something that you can play with also in terms of, playing a little more up-tempo, is that you've got guys that can come in and sub. And Tamar Bates kind of hit a big 3 at the end of the first half of that Iowa game. Maybe that gets his confidence going as well.
Has Wyoming played a Trace Jackson Davis this year, someone of his caliber?
Yeah, it would be hard to say, but I think Trace is certainly a guy that's a leaper and a high wire act along with his size. And they've really got, since they've got to that screen and rolls, you look back at the Purdue game and you've seen that a little more rather than Trace exclusively playing with his back to the basket. I think it's really stirred him on. And he and Xavier Johnson kind of have that lob game going a little bit. They're not always timed perfectly, but a lot of times they're timed well, and Trace is going up and getting the ball and slamming it down, or sometimes even banks it in, right? We've seen that too, where he's done like a lob banking off the glass, but he's finishing around there. and that's going to be key going forward.
Tim's pointing out, if you think about it, Indiana will be playing at 4:15 p.m. local time on Thursday if they win tonight. Is that accurate?
Yeah, if that would be 7:15.
Yeah, they got the 7:15 game out there. So that I don't understand that. If they're playing at the 4:15 local time, playing this late game, that's crazy to me. That's actually ludicrous that the NCAA would do that. But I'm tired. I don't want to complain about it. I'm tired of complaining about it because it is what it is. But it just seems like that is a no-win situation.
Well, you haven't been in
unless you talk to Woody. He says, you know what he has to say about those kids. They can bounce back.
Yeah, they're 18, 19-year-old kids. But and Woody is used to the NBA, right, where you have the back-to-back games where you're flying from one city to the other. So I think he knows how to handle it from that perspective. And I think it's going to be, you're in the tournament, right? This is what you wanted. You haven't been in since 2016. So just, take advantage of the opportunity. First things first, you got to take care of Wyoming. You do have the advantage, as I said before, that you're close to home and they've had to travel and fly. So I think that is something that is working in Indiana's favor in this matchup, and you got to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Taking on the Wyoming Cowboys tonight in a play-in game for the NCAA tournament. There's actually 2 games here tonight. Don't forget about that. You've got the early game.
Texas Southern and
Texas Southern. Is that where Mike Davis used to coach?
Yes.
Against Corpus Christi.
Against Corpus Christi. So you got the battle of the 2 Texas teams.
Look at the teams that are here, though. Corpus Christi, Wyoming. Who's the other one?
Texas
Southern, and Indiana.
Yes.
It just seems a little out of balance.
And tomorrow you got Rutgers, Notre Dame, and who are the other 2? Wright State, right? Who's local?
Very odd. You got
and Bryant is the other one.
Bryant. Okay.
And Thomas Bryant.
Bryant from the Northeastern Conference, whose fans, when they played Wagner in that championship game, I think it must have been dime beer night because apparently they were a little rowdy there and they had to stop the game or whatever. It was like Bill Veeck all over again. Or something.
I didn't see that.
Oh yeah, no, it was pretty ugly in that game. Apparently,
what happened?
Fights in the stands, all sorts of craziness. People were. It was kind of a little ugly there for a while.
Maybe that's why that you have no beer sales in Assembly Hall yet.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty bad apparently that game.
But yeah, so why is that? I still don't know why. What is the explanation for not having beer sales? Is it because? I wonder if it's because the emotions are so high in Assembly Hall. You don't have that emotion. I'm sorry, but you just don't have that emotional high in football. Definitely don't have it in baseball or softball.
Yeah.
But in basketball, those people get emotional in there, man.
Yeah, and you got really, I think it's Assembly Hall too. It's really tight quarters too. It's a tightly packed arena, so I think you combine that too. I think it would be, pretty dangerous. But it's great that they have beer for baseball this year, huh? So when the season's over, we can go out to Park Hoffman Stadium and watch a game and crack open a few brews on a nice spring day. That's going to be really nice.
That would be great for the people. That should draw them out there as their season's underway right now.
Yeah.
Try to hit up some comments from the Andy Moore Honda hotline. Missed some of those. A lot of people saying that they're going to be watching the game tonight, of course. Well, we needed to make the bed, but too tired, man. I'm just going to climb right back in it. So no, I don't make the bed. Do you make do people? I've never understood this. Why people always make the bed every day drives me nuts. Obviously, I'm not married, but it's dumb to me. I'm getting right back in the daggone thing. Why the hell do I need to make it? There's going to be normally no one to see. This one is different, but that's the thoughts of a single male, the mind of a single male. So there you go, Pete. But thank you very much. However, there is a nice steakhouse, Kevin, that if Indiana were to make it to Portland, that Pete, my friend Pete, who's on here, took me to many, many, many years ago.
Okay.
Out in Portland. Yeah. Absolutely. So looking for, haven't I used to be a television sports anchor, and my last television sports anchor job was in Washington State.
Yakima, right?
Well, we were at a sister station in Yakima. We were in Kennewick, but right above the Oregon border, right along the Columbia River Gorge, which is beautiful. But it's a beautiful area out there. If you haven't been, you got Mount Hood out there, which is very, very cool. I remember waking up one morning at Pete's place and just rolling over, looking out the sliding glass door, and there's Mount Hood. It's just mind-boggling. But of course, to see that thing is wild because it goes up and it has, it's Mount St. Helens. You can also see, I believe, if you can see it from there.
Did the volcano erupted at Mount St.
Mount
Helens?
St. Helens did, and it blew out the side, which was wild. But it looks odd because instead of having a point, it goes up and it has a big flat spot. From where it blew off. But
it's
little geography lesson for you this morning.
Yeah, I went to Seattle about 20 years ago, and we went like the Olympia Mountains up there, and
Olympia.
That's very beautiful up there.
But it's a beautiful area up there. If anyone coming to Dayton, that's a question.
I'm sure a lot of people are. Yeah,
fans are coming to Dayton. That Portland trip, that's going to be a tough place for Indiana to have fans at. It's such a tight turnaround that it just, and you want to talk about expensive? Let's just be honest here. It's expensive as freaking hell. Because you've got a couple of day turnaround in which you have to buy air flights. Man, there were flights for about $1,000. So that,
I would say I'm looking at one way for $380 going out, but I know coming back it's going to be probably pretty bad.
Yeah, you should know that's going to be bad. That's going to be bad doing it that way. But I just think that maybe sometimes NCAA should do things with a little more common sense to just build a better base. Fans, because how many games do you watch when there are no fans there? And I know they probably don't care about that because of the TV money, but you would think that they would want to also have fans in the stands.
Yeah, but I think the way you work it too is, let's not forget, Indiana's a 12 seed. So the way they work it is if you are a higher seed, you get rewarded with the closer geography, the fans. Why would you reward Indiana as a 12 seed to have fans, if you're facing a team like, but that's like for the women's tournament, I don't understand UConn being a 2 seed and playing in Connecticut and poor North Carolina State are the 1 seed, but it's going to essentially be a road game if they meet the Elite Eight, and Indiana's in there as the 3 seed.
So, there we go. Hey, we got to take another break. Coming up next, Chronic Hoosier's going to join us. We'll be back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios Annex here from Dayton, brought to you by our good friends at Reynolds Family Dentistry. Right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington.
Hello, Chronic.
Hello.
What's happening, gentlemen?
Oh, just enjoying an early morning in Dayton for a late night in Dayton.
Coming live from the hotel bed.
Yeah, I guess we should have made it that.
No, that is first pour flavor at its finest right there.
That's what I said, man. That's live action, baby. That's live action.
What is?
Holy God! Tomorrow it could be worse with an 11:00 game tonight.
Have you looked at what's the flight situation?
Oh my God! I was just talking about that.
Yeah,
it's terrible. It's you're looking at $1,000.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
I could fly to Florida and back from Indianapolis 10 times round trip for what this trip is going to cost, and I'm not kidding. 10 times.
I went to law school in Portland. I am all too familiar. There are few options. There are high prices, and it's not a fun flight.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's like going to freaking Russia. I'm just kidding. I didn't know. So I didn't know you were out in Portland.
Yep. I went to law school at the Northwestern School of Law, Lewis and Clark.
Be damned. I was in Kennewick, Washington, which you probably don't know where that is.
I do.
That was my last TV sports anchor job.
Really?
The Tri-Cities.
Was it that Spokane and Seattle or something?
No, it was Kennewick, Richland, Pasco.
The
others, we had a sister station there. They were above us. But yeah, it was dry as a bone where I was. I was on the east side. Dry.
People don't realize that.
Bone.
2/3 of Oregon and Washington are arid as fuck.
Oh man, dry as a bone, man.
I still remember we got out of the U-Haul sometime right after sunrise. We got up early and got a jump on it when we were moving out there, and we had taken the southern route through Utah and Idaho. And we get out at this rest stop, and my wife's like, "Is this a joke?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "There's a rattlesnake warning sign in the parking lot." And we're in Oregon, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" And I kid you not, by the time we walked to the bathroom, saw 3 of them. They were just coming out to warm up on the rocks after a cold night.
Whew.
I was like, I've been lied to. This is not what I was sold.
Oh,
all right, here we go.
By Evansville Living Magazine and the Readers, located at the corner of Green River Road and the Lloyd Expressway, or online at brinkersjewelers.com. This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio on this Tuesday, brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, #1 for a reason. You get the best deals, get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. Joined now by our good friend Chronic Hoosier. How are you, sir?
I could not be better, and I mean that in the most literal sense. I could not be better. We are NCAA game day, man. It's been a long time since we got to wake up to this day, so I'm glad it's here.
Yeah, the trappings, even though it's in Dayton, are here. You see the signs up. The road begins here, as it does for the teams that are here, playing their way into the regular portion of the tournament. If Indiana wins tonight, their reward is to head west, young man, and go to Portland, where you've spent some time, I just learned, back in your younger days. And while it's a beautiful city and a nice place, it's certainly not some place I want to go to after playing and getting done with a basketball game at 11 o'clock and probably jumping on a charter in about an hour after that.
Yeah, it's a really, really tough pull for everybody involved. And it's, we talk about the players. You can certainly make an argument that the NCAA is maybe lacking on its duty to look out for student-athlete well-being. Understand tournaments can have a lot of compressed games. Or a compressed schedule for a lot of games to get squeezed into, but it's bordering on ridiculous to go from Dayton and then have a 48-hour turnaround 3 time zones away in the most consequential game of the season. But it is what it is. The committee didn't do Indiana any favors, but at the end of the day, the committee called Indiana's name. And when this season started, me, everybody I spoke with basically said, the goal for this team is make the NCAA tournament. Pretty cut and dry. That's what they need to do. And
after losing to Syracuse, losing the 22-point lead at Wisconsin, Kevin, you almost say, all right, well, you had numerous opportunities, and while that run at the end was great, you still had a lot of opportunities that you gave up. So we're going to put you here, but you are in, like Ronick said, and you have a chance to do what you. Once again, their destiny is in their own hands.
Yeah, and you take a look at body of work, but I think to Chronick's point with regards to that, I'm just curious, why couldn't they have, set something up where they went to Milwaukee or they went to Pittsburgh, where you're much closer from a geographic standpoint in terms of a turnaround, I mean, that's like a short charter flight or a bus trip even.
And I don't understand.
You know, why the West Coast? What?
They originally, Indiana was supposed to play Notre Dame. They were the last two in.
Yeah.
But Indiana already played Notre Dame during the regular season, and they already played Rutgers. So they were given Wyoming instead, and it changed everything. This is the lower seeded game. It's just a bunch of stuff that the NCAA does that nobody at the end of the day understands. And I'm not sure that they understand, Chronic.
But you know,
Go ahead.
I was going to say that, you know, the Rutgers, that game has to go to San Diego too. They have to go to the West Coast also. That's just my point. Like, why not send them to Pittsburgh? Why not send them to Milwaukee, where it would be at least a little bit easier from a logistics and a travel perspective? And the you know, they could do rematches. They're allowed to do them, but I think they try to avoid them at all costs. But you could have had an Indiana Notre Dame rematch in Dayton, and I think it would have been fine.
Chronic, you think that also with the Big Ten getting 9 bids, 3 more than anyone else, that they're saying, all right, you're getting these extra teams in, well, we're not going to make it easy on them at all.
No, I think it almost feels like there was some punitive element to the decisions involved. You know, we can sit here and I can probably piss and moan for a couple hours on the subject. End of the day, you know, Indiana's non-conference wasn't great. They lost a lot of winnable games throughout the course of the season. You know, we're not having this conversation probably if they just beat Syracuse or they don't drop that game at Penn State or, you know, the Wisconsin lead, or we can go on and on and on. You know, Woody decided to sit you know, almost half of his available scholarship guys at Northwestern. That's a choice they made. At the end of the day, the one that I think really sticks out to me, though, you don't feel like they weighted the conference tournament that much. They absolutely gave no deference whatsoever to Rob and Trey's injury. And that's something that we have in years past seen the committee at least seemingly account for. And that's nowhere to be seen in the decisions they made in Indiana. But, you know, I take the other side of the coin and say, you know, Indiana probably had no business being in this tournament 5 days ago. Not probably to it. They had zero business. They had to go up in Indiana or Indianapolis and play their way in. End of the day, though, like I was saying earlier, this is the tournament. If they continue to win basketball games, they will have a chance to win the national or play for a national championship. And at the start of the season, all throughout the season, that has been the base expectation for this program. And against a lot of odds, they found a way to make it happen. And I'm certainly not going to put any large wager on them winning the national title, although I'm obligated to have at least one bracket that I do out. I'd maybe not submit it, but I at least got to ride it out where they make it there. But against all odds, they're here, and they're playing some pretty decent basketball right now. And, you know, it can go sideways in a hurry with this team, with any team in a single elimination tournament. But that's the beauty of March. And the beauty of today is we get to watch the Indiana Hoosiers take part in this glorious tradition that we've enjoyed for so long.
I'll ask you both this question. You mentioned the Northwestern game, one of those that was just easy that let it get away. But I see that as the turning point for this team. If that doesn't happen, I don't know that they galvanize, because that's what I've seen them do here in the last, 6 games, is galvanize. Xavier Johnson's play. I don't know, if the conversation that was had after that benefited, but there has been a marked difference since that game, since those suspensions. This team has come together, Kevin. I don't know that they're playing as well now if that doesn't happen.
Well, let's not forget, at the end of the regular season, they did lose a lot of those games. I mean, they were close. Ohio State, Rutgers, there were some heartbreakers there along the way. I think it definitely had an impact on Xavier Johnson, and it raised his play for sure. They still – that was still part of the tailspin. I mean, 7-9, and then they regrouped in the Big Ten tournament. I think – I look at that comeback in the second half of Michigan as being like the season saver, the energy they played with, and how they really came together and played with a sense of desperation.
I mean, that tied the 17-point deficit they faced in 2002 against #1 defending champion Duke at the Eastern Regional in Lexington, where they were down by 17. But this was in the first half, I think. In this Michigan game, this was a 17-point deficit in the second half, which unbelievable. It was like 13 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That's just unbelievable.
24 run.
That's an unbelievable comeback.
No, it's probably one of the most improbable games I've ever seen this team, and probably more so simply because of what we had seen in the 5 preceding weeks. A team that was very, very competitive throughout most of the stretch, but always found a way to fold when it came down to winning time. And I agree with Kevin. I think this was a resolve that came through in that huddle, where they just refused to lose. They refused to let the slide continue. They refused to be left out of the Big Ten tournament and ultimately of the NCAA tournament. And it's a great thing to see a ball club playing some of their best ball in tournament time. And that's pretty much the best you could hope for now. Could we ask for a better shooting percentage? Absolutely. We can sit here and nitpick for days, but at the end of the day, the Indiana Hoosiers are playing some of the best basketball that they've played all year, right when it matters most. Now, can they sustain that? Can they put a run together here? Obviously, that remains to be seen. But I'll tell you what, it is 180 degrees opposite mood from where I expected it would be on the first day of NCAA tournament games. If you'd asked me this question just a week ago, I don't think most people outside that locker room realistically thought this team had a shot of putting themselves in this position. I said it. You had to say it last week on the show or anytime you talked about it. There were still games to be played. They are not mathematically eliminated yet. And come to find out, they weren't quite ready to be eliminated themselves. So here we are. Now we'll see if they can hold that. This is going to be, I don't think Wyoming is a team that anybody can overlook. They are really similar to Indiana in as much as they don't rely real heavily on the 3-point shot. They're going to work you inside out and they're going to break you down. And Indiana, as we've seen throughout most of the year, Trace is going to have to show up, obviously. Guards are going to have to be available. Xavier's got to find a way to keep himself on the floor, and they can't hit lower than their season averages when it comes to shooting, particularly 3-point and free throw shooting. They just can't. This is not the time to take a dip. And I think if they can do that, they're going to be in a position to win. And I think if they can continue to do that, I actually like their path to the Sweet 16. I think the team we saw in Indianapolis is a team that is very much capable of making it to the second weekend. But there's a whole lot of stuff that's going to have to come together in order for that to actualize.
Steve Prather had a comment here that reminds me is about officiating. And you always see when you go from conference play to NCAA tournament play, a lot of times those games are officiated differently. If you're playing the Big Ten, you're used to the same group of officials who call it one way. Well, now you're getting officials from different leagues that may call it differently. The Big Ten is known as a banging league, very physical. Sometimes you get out, and if you draw the wrong officials, that could be not conducive for your game.
Yeah, Big Ten definitely a body bag league, but it's always interesting when you do that mishmash. You know what I mean? I wonder if we'll see Bo Borowski here or not. But we'll you just don't know. Yeah, you have to adjust. That's part of the adjustment process. But I think it goes for both teams. It just doesn't go for Indiana. It goes for Wyoming as well. And we know Xavier Johnson is the kind of guy that sometimes can pick up fouls. He plays very aggressive. He's probably going to play aggressive against Maldonado. So we'll see. Generally, in my experience in covering NCAA tournament games, though, they usually more often than not let a lot of contact go.
Yeah, and this is I think this is a situation that could be good for Xavier, could be good for some of the guards. Bigs are going to bang. Trace is used to that. I think the only thing that concerns me about that is you've got teams that they get really used to getting a good percentage of their buckets from the free throw line. And if the refs are going to hold on to the whistles a little tighter, you got to hit your shots because they're not going to give you free opportunities at the stripe if you can't convert from the floor. So, Indiana shooting, I believe, about a third of their points or their free throw rate. It's about 33%. You can't rely on those whistles. You've got to finish through contact. And more than anything, you've just got to adjust to the way the game is being called. And that's really difficult because you can whiplash. But, coming out of the Big Ten, just act like you came out of halftime and expect a totally different game from the officials, and you'll be just fine.
Yeah, I'm wondering what the crowd is going to be like tonight, Chronic. This is, Kevin mentioned earlier, an excellent opportunity for Indiana fans, especially those along the east side and southeast side of the state. Dayton, such an easy place to get to, an opportunity to see them play that maybe they wouldn't normally get. Last night, I think we saw quite a few fans that probably don't normally get that opportunity. Josh mentioned he came over to watch the shoot around. But there were some definitely Indiana fans there last night. Not many from Wyoming. But this should be a very, very, very pro Indiana crowd.
Yeah, it should be about the opposite of what you would expect on a road game in the first four. I think it's going to be a de facto home game for the Hoosiers. Like you mentioned, probably not going to see a whole lot of Cowboys fans out and about outside of family. But you know what? That can come back and bite you too. In tournament play, there's some teams that are born to play the role of spoiler. And it's what a better stage to do it on than the NCAA tournament in front of a gym 90% full of your opponent's fans. So I think Indiana needs to capitalize on that energy. As we've seen throughout the year, they played a different level when they were at Assembly Hall. Obviously, sight lines are going to be a little bit different, but it should feel a lot like home for them. Just 2 hours and 45 minutes up the road from Assembly Hall.
But this is the time of year we've all been waiting for, and the excitement that builds around these games. It's amazing the excitement level when it's an NCAA tournament game. Even whether it's a fan or however, there's just that extra level of electricity that just comes with it automatically. You don't even have to ask for it. It's just there.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I've already had 3 people offer me tickets today, just today, this morning. Who, like myself, when the show was on, you've got the ticket site pulled up, just waiting to see where we're going to be. And I think a lot of folks, when they saw it was a short hop over, pulled the trigger real quick, perhaps before they had maybe secured commitments from their traveling parties. But it's a great opportunity for Indiana fans to see, a lot of Indiana fans to see one more game in person before they make the swing out west. But I would expect there to be a pretty good IU contingency in Portland. As we were saying earlier before we came on, I spent some time out there for grad school, know a lot of Bloomington kids that work their way out in the Pacific Northwest there. So it should be a good Hoosier contingency in the Rose City if we're lucky enough to make it out there.
Kevin, we've talked about the disadvantages that Indiana has been given, while also the advantages. This game right here of being able to play with so many of their fans able to come over. So Indiana should have a decided advantage on that front tonight.
Yeah, and the fact that it was less travel demands too than Wyoming, I think will be pretty interesting. Wyoming, it'll be pretty interesting to see if Josh Allen maybe makes a trip, right? The Buffalo Bills quarterback, Wyoming alum, or maybe we'll spot Fennis Dembo in there, the 2002 former Wyoming standout. Larry Nance Jr., another one. So
Joby Wright, former coach at Wyoming from Indiana. So. It's a few connections there to Indiana, but Wyoming's a great place, but not known for their basketball. I can't say that.
Known for their rodeo, probably, right?
There you go. What's up next for you, my friend?
I am probably going to drink a lot of whiskey tonight. The
J-Lo will be flowing.
I was looking at the schedule, and I have very early morning obligations back in Bloomington tomorrow. I did not expect to to have a Tuesday night game when I was filling my calendar out, months ago. So I'm going to stick to home. We're going to watch this one on the couch from the friendly confines, and then it's going to be a tough one to get some sleep, win or lose. These late games are absolutely brutal, but I'm not going to be that guy bitching about it, because at the end of the day, you could put this thing on at 2 a.m. and I'm going to be bright-eyed, bushy-tailed with Fish on the radio, and we're going to cheer for some Hoosiers in the NCAA. We've let go a couple of coaches since we were last here, and at the end of the day, the argument was they weren't consistently putting a team on the floor capable of getting to this point. And for Mike Woodson to be able to get the team back in the dance in the first year, I think it's absolutely a boon to the program's momentum underneath this new staff. For the players that are going to be returning, I think it's imperative. I still have no idea what the roster is going to look like going into next season, but I know it's probably going to have a fuller participation with Indiana having made the dance this year and hopefully able to get a couple of wins under its belt in the NCAA tournament. And that's everything. Yeah, every team in this tournament is going to lose except for one. That's just inevitable. That's the way these things are set up. Recognizing that reality, but also recognizing how much momentum they're going to be able to carry into the off season, into the recruiting cycle, having had a chance to get themselves in position to play in this tournament, I think is absolutely massive for this program. So happy for the staff. I'm so happy for all the players and their families, for that matter. There's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that have been shed since the last time Indiana played here, and you love to see the payoff. You love to see these guys get rewarded for their hard work. And who knows, man? Let's see if we can put a run together. We're playing some good basketball. So I'm watching the clock. I am biting at the bit to get to 9-10 tonight.
Did anyone else catch the irony of Trace Jackson Davis's statement yesterday that Mike Woodson had brought this program out into the light, that it had been in the darkness for a while, and the irony that we're in Dayton to hear that statement?
It certainly caught my attention. It certainly lit my phone up. A lot of people trying to decipher if maybe he wasn't tipping his hand on what next year had in store for him as well. But I think there was a whole lot of truth in that statement, and you can see it on the bench. I was looking at some of the pictures that the program puts out on its social media pages, and the energy, the enthusiasm around this program right now is something that we haven't seen in a while. And at the end of the day, man, these guys are out there playing a game. Games are supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun for the participants, even though you're going to lose some. And it's great to see the joy back. It's great to see the smiles on their faces. It's great to see dreams actualizing. And I know that's corny as all get out, but I mean that as sincerely as I've ever said anything. You love to see it when people have their dreams come to life. And I know there's bigger dreams ahead, and I just hope they can keep taking steps here this week towards achieving them. But at the end of the day, man, we're having this conversation as opposed to talking about how dreary the NIT is going to be. So I couldn't be happier. We do still get basketball at Assembly Hall with the women this weekend. So this is a win-win, man. We're playing with house money. Let's have some fun. Let's bust up some brackets, and let's see how far this team can go.
How many brackets did you fill out?
I only submit one. I have one that I submit in my pools. I probably do. I think this year I hand wrote 5 just to kind of sit there, and I'll stare at them for a little bit. I still haven't picked the one I'm going to submit yet, but there will be one ultimately that I put in all of my pools. But right now I'm staring at 5 of them.
Sounds good, Chronic. I appreciate you, brother, as always. We'll be here tonight. I know you'll be watching, and look forward to it. We look forward to talking about it. Hope we're talking about round 2 next week.
I do as well, and good luck to you guys in the event that you have to make that trip out west. I know that's not an easy haul for a lot of the people that are not flying charter out to Portland on a very, very quick turnaround here.
No charter for this man or either one of us. I got news for you. We're economy cabin.
Yeah, you become pretty adept at sleeping at planes on this stage. So that's where we'll get our sleep.
Well, and that's the thing about this call is there's no drive option really, and a 48-hour turnaround, unless you've got a team of people that are prepared to drive. It really takes that option off the table, which is unfortunate because it's not an easy flight. It's not a cheap flight, and there's not a lot of room to work with in between those game windows. So best of luck to you guys as well. Hopefully we got some good stories to tell come tomorrow morning.
Appreciate you, my friend. Chronic Hoosier, brought to you by our good friends at Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer, #1 for a reason. You get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com. We're back with more to finish up here on Indiana Sports Beat right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting
Just a heads up, we started late, so we're going past 10:30 by a few minutes.
All right, tell me what you got to go to.
And I think it's 33-ish or 34. I'm not 100% sure, but it's something like that.
10:33.
I think. But I'll be, I'll remind you. And also, give me a couple minutes. I'm going to grab a quote from last night's presser as well.
Well, it's exactly 20 minutes from right now, so 33.
33.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you.
I'll grab something from Woody.
Yes, awesome. This is our last break.
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. My second Yingling, I was drinking it when I went to sleep. I didn't get done with my work till like 12:30.
I was long asleep.
Yeah, you were. You weren't that long asleep. I mean, you were up till like 12:30.
Yeah. People seem to make it on the end now. Oh, that's yours.
By the way.
Yeah, they end up over there. Gee whiz.
Coaching. At the end of the day, and I'm going to challenge you and push on me to the level of play just go. Playing for a Big Ten title is different. And I knew if we did that, we would put ourselves in a tremendous position to win game.
Gosh, did he ramble?
Yeah, Kevin Brockway, CHI. Coached a number of NBA playoff series. I guess this would be like a.
Here's Kevin's question. We'll use that.
Yeah. Anyone you can chat to in the college world for advice, or you can drop up from that, maybe your approach and make your first season.
No.
Yeah, gotta slow down.
Things or anything that you can drop up from that, maybe your approach and make your first season.
What did he ask you?
I have to
You can ask Kevin.
Coaching the first NCAA tournament game, is after coaching NBA games.
I'll just let you
anybody ask for advice about.
Were you right after him, Jim?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought I heard you right after. Here, I'm gonna have to finish this when we come back from break, but I will.
All right.
Are your notifications on? I'll text you when it's uploaded and ready. All right.
Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. The Hoosier.com is where you can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by BB's Market in Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this Tuesday. It's game day. The start of the NCAA tournament. Indiana taking on Wyoming this evening at 9:10 in the first four-in play-in game.
True TV.
True TV.
You get it?
Do I get it?
Yeah.
No.
It's like I said,
Oh, do I get that channel?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. But I will fortunately be at the game, so it won't matter. I won't need True TV. We were talking a minute ago about this team and how it seems to be different. One of the things that stands out, if you're at the games, if you're not at the games, you can't see this, but at the end of their warm-ups, when they're their final warm-ups, Anthony Leal, Race Thompson, and Trace Jackson Davis stand out there and then try to hit half-court shots.
Yeah.
Just having fun. The crowd gets into it, and that just came up to me a minute ago. I was thinking that when we were talking about the differences between this team and last year. They're having fun. They're relaxed. Huge difference for them to do what they're doing right now. But you would have never seen that in the last 5 years, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a certain, I look at even free throw shooting, right? You know what I mean? It seemed like they were so tight last year. You remember that Big Ten tournament game against Rutgers last year where they couldn't hit their free throws down the stretch?
That game? Hell, what game couldn't they?
I know.
What game did they hit free throws down the stretch?
So I think that there were so many nerves, right? In the previous regime, and
it was just tight.
Now you're seeing a much more relaxed program, and I think that. But I think Mike Woodson is tough when he needs to be, and he talked about that. He talked about how he's pushed Trace Jackson Davis, and sometimes he knows that probably Trace goes back to the gym is a little peed off, in terms of.
But that's what you want.
Yeah,
you want that drive, that guy that just to want more. Speaking of Mike Woodson, yesterday, the pressers, prior to game day pressers, Mike Woodson met with the media, and I think this is you, Kevin. What did you ask Mike?
Yeah, I asked him about coaching in his first NCAA tournament game, and if there's anyone that he looked to for advice in terms of dealing with that kind of scenario. Because he's been in the NBA where he's coached 7-game series. This is a little different. This would be like an elimination game for a playoff game for him.
No, I mean I got calls from Coach Calipari and Larry Brown, who's two of my closest friends. That wish me well. But they don't need to give me, at the end of the day, man, I've coached enough basketball and been around it a long time, man. It's about getting these guys pumped and ready to go, man, and sustaining it over a 40-minute ball game. That's what it's going to be about.
And we'll see if that gets accomplished tonight. But there has been some differences, though. I think that we saw that early on with some things that he was doing that he was having to do differently. But I also agree with what he said. Obviously, he's coached long enough. He knows this game inside and out. And at the end of the day, there's some just basic general rules that you have to do. And he knows what those are and getting this team to do that. And they have finally seemed to start doing that here at the end of the season. But now you're in a tournament, in the NCAA tournament, a place that none of them have been. That's something else we haven't talked about. There's zero tournament experience minus the Big Ten tournament for these guys.
Yeah. This is a completely new cast, and they're all going to be going into it for the first time. And I think that's interesting. And like I said, it is Coach Wood's first time, and it'll be interesting. Just that, do you coach? What kind of sense of urgency do you coach with when your season's on the line? Do you shorten your rotation? And he did that some in the Big Ten tournament, and I thought that was effective as well. Or do you just search for different combinations like they did in the Michigan game, going with Jordan Geronimo down the stretch, who was plus 21 in that game and was really, more effective defensively inside on Diabate and Hunter Dickinson. So
how can you be plus 21?
Yeah, I mean, in 12 minutes on the floor, I mean, that was a pretty amazing stat against a Big Ten team. So it'll be, the other thing, Mike Woodson talked about later in the press conference was timeouts, adjusting to having less timeouts in the college game as compared to the NBA game, and having players play through runs, through rough stretches, because you need to save your timeouts at the end of the game.
Yeah, Ross says out of curiosity, he was looking at availability and price of flights to Portland. I don't know about the availability, but I can sure as hell tell you about the price.
Yeah.
It's higher than a giraffe's butt.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
I will say, though, like sometimes when you do one-way flights, it works okay because a lot of times in the tournament, too, when people drop out or cancel flights at the last minute or things happen, you can find those
And
one-way
airlines are going to screw you every which way they can.
Yeah.
And the odd thing is, we're very fortunate being in the Indianapolis area. Indianapolis, the airport, was just voted the top airport in North America, by the way. Part of that, though, is you can get so many places inexpensively, easily, but Portland, Oregon is not one of them. Gee whiz. It's like we're going to Mars.
Yeah, and the other thing about Indianapolis Airport, too, is it's easy to get in and out of, too. The security lines usually aren't really long. They do a good job there.
This is a long flight on top of that. I mean, it doesn't matter for us, but we talked about the players getting, how much rest can you really get on a plane?
Yeah. Especially if you're a big guy.
Well, I mean, especially if you've been playing, your body needs playing these games and the muscles getting pounded. I don't know how much rest you're getting at 30,000 feet. Maybe it's better for you. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's, they have the charter plane. They'll be there. And like I said, hopefully they have a lot of leg room.
Josh pointing out that Dane Fife has some tournament experience, but unfortunately Dane Fife won't be playing for the team. But that's something good to point out. You got someone who not only has tournament experience, but he has tournament experience behind Tom Izzo, a lot of that, which fortunately Michigan State usually makes a decent run of the tournament. So Dane Fife has seen a lot of NCAA games. Great point, by the way, Josh.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I think that, Dane is a guy, it's hard to believe, right? 20 years ago, the 2002 team that made that run. AJ Moye, Dave Fife, right?
I was there, baby.
All that, it's a lot of great players, and you would love to see another run like that. You never know, but it's not unprecedented. The first four, I mean, last year
with UCLA, probably should have won the championship game.
Which but certainly it was a little different in that everything was in Indianapolis and they have to deal with the travel demands. But VCU in 2011 did it under Shaka Smart, where they had to deal with those travel demands and playing 3 times in 3 days. I think we saw UCF go to the Sweet 16 one year that way also. So it can be done. You can make runs. And like I said, some people are saying that, Indiana can make a run to the Sweet 16. I think if UCLA wins and gets through their pod,
it's going to be very difficult.
That will be a tough round of 32 games. But I think that Wyoming is beatable, and I think St. Mary's is beatable.
Does Indiana have to win this game for this to be a successful season?
No. I think it's a successful season just making the tournament. And I think that fans will remember that Big Ten tournament run. And this year is the springboard year, the first year under Woodson, just to show the recruits too.
But
that Indiana's
can
back
you lose to Wyoming?
Can win, and you're in the tournament. It'll be forgotten because you're in the tournament. The fact that you made the tournament your first year, I think, shows that the program made progress, and that I think it will be what will be more remembered if they lose will be that Big Ten run where they beat Michigan and Illinois back to back and almost beat Iowa. And you can also look that you beat Purdue once and you almost beat them a second time. Also, that too, you've taken care of your rivals, and I think then it becomes an interesting offseason. Do you convince Trace to do one last go around? Does Ray stay? And the guard play with we bring in Hood Shafino and you bring in Caleb Banks and CJ Gunn. That class. And how do you mix them in?
Yeah, looking forward to that, and I'm sure that those guys are looking at this team and seeing the fact that they've made the tournament and what they can add to that next year, and looking at what they have had. And this team should undoubtedly be better next year, but of course we don't know what that team makeup is going to be like. A lot of questions that will come. Do you think that the success or non-success that Indiana has is going to have any bearing on Trace Jackson Davis's decision to return?
Yeah, no, I think it's more the feedback he's going to receive, and he'll probably do that. That process will be getting in the offseason where his stock is.
And how has that feedback changed in the last little bit, you think?
Yeah, I think that, certainly you take a look at his Big Ten tournament run and what he did. I think that certainly opened some eyes, but you're still talking about a guy that's limited in terms of his perimeter game. I think
we did see him take another shot at least. He missed it, but he took it.
Yeah, and he did. What was it? Was it the Illinois game when he hit that little elbow jumper?
Oh yeah, from 15 feet, man. Smooth, looks smooth as butter.
Where he did, he uncorked it and he took it and he did it. And I think that's what the pro scouts are going to be looking for him is more of that. And I don't know if getting the NCAA tournament was a mountain that Trace wanted to climb, and now that they did it, but maybe if they lose tonight, which you hope not, maybe that makes Trace hungry to come back and really be part of the field of 64 instead of just being here. And
there's also, let's be honest, he's borderline round 2 draft from everything I've seen.
Yeah, and
so that gives you zero guarantees. Number one. Number two, he's going to have the opportunity. John, I think we got 6 minutes to go.
I know. I'm here. You were talking about Trace, and I have a clip regarding what you're talking about. Not about him going to the NBA, but about being in the NCAA tournament and stuff.
Perfect. Well, let's go ahead and hear that. Trace Jackson Davis talking about playing in the tournament.
I guess I'll start. So back when I was a little kid, I always just dreamed of playing in the championship game and hitting free throws and for the win. I won't say what team it was because I'll tell you it wasn't Indiana, but so it's always been a dream playing in the tournament, and finally getting that opportunity I think is really cool. But after we got selected, I was really relieved because I was really anxious leading up to it, especially going through it, not seeing our name until the final bracket was a little nerve-wracking, but finally just having that pressure off your shoulders and you're finally playing for something, playing for a national title, I think is really cool.
Who's the team?
I wonder, maybe Duke. Maybe he was like Duke fan growing up.
I don't know. There's just a lot of things going through my mind, different ones. I don't know. No one asked. Oh man, I must know.
It's hard to get follow-up questions into that kind of setting.
Oh, trust me, I know. But tonight it comes to it's going to be interesting to see, because recently I had on the people from Hoosiers for Good, which is a new NIL cooperative. But this one, I'm trying to be careful how I phrase this. It's absolutely not officially related to Indiana, but I think that this is as close to Indiana related as you can be. It's created to disassociate other groups who have no control, who have there are board members on this one that are from well-known companies, and I think it's something that Indiana University supports, and I know they support it, but also trusts to not do things the wrong way, where they don't have control over any other group. And this group is not joining any other group. So anything that you've heard of that is not accurate. They are completely separate. And they are going to be, without question, the leading arm for NIL for Indiana. And this is going to be a big deal, because this is where college sports has come from, or come to, rather. It's who's going to be able to go out and sign the best guys. That's the long and short of it.
It's a recruiting tool for sure. You know what I mean? It's not the end-all, be-all.
It's not an inducement, though, Kevin. Can't use the word inducement.
Yes, that's true. But
it's a joke.
It's the whole, the landscape has certainly changed with NIL. And maybe, that's another factor, too, that will get more kids to stay. The fact that you can make a few dollars on the side in college.
There was a story that came out. There is an NIL deal that the Athletic was able to look at. They allowed their lawyers to look at it. They didn't name the player, didn't name the school. That was the agreement. This is an $8 million NIL deal. It's real and it's happening. So that's where people are going. There are people that care more about their schools winning than anything else.
Yeah.
And there are some millionaires, billionaires out there, folks. I'm shocked that Indiana State or Oklahoma State is not just running rampant right now. They got all that T-Boone Pickett money, oil money. Whoo! Man, they got it going on. Man, it has been another fun show as always. Kevin, we've got the first NCAA tournament game for Indiana in 6 years tonight. So we got that to look forward to. Hopefully it's a great crowd for Indiana, but more importantly, hopefully they have a win. And if they do, where are you going to be tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.?
I will be on a plane. I'll be on a flight to Portland, going through Minneapolis, and hopefully catch some sleep on that flight, and then we'll head on out to beautiful Portland, Oregon for Pacific Northwest, which I've not been back to in a long time. I've never been to Portland. I've been to Seattle, which is beautiful, and I'm expecting Portland to be the same, and get some Voodoo Donuts too. They have really good donuts there.
Voodoo Donuts?
Yes, that's the place to go apparently.
The Acropolis. That's been a great day, man. I can't tell what Chronic Hoosier thinks. Mike DeCourcy as well from Fox BTN and Sporting News. And, of course, Kevin Brockway from Ncaa. Make sure you go pick up and read all of his things if you're in one of the towns, Jeffersonville or Kokomo, wherever else we got.
Anderson, Terre Haute. Yeah.
Terre Haute, all over the state. But appreciate you guys. Jennifer says Voodoo's overrated. Uh-oh. Hey, but we've got more. We'll be back we'll let you know what happens after the game tonight. We'll see what Indiana can do as they take on Wyoming in the play-in game. Thanks a lot to everybody. Make sure you stop by BB's Marketplace in Bloomington, the former Wagon and Wheel. Go get your My Wow card as well from your app store. Until tomorrow or tonight, depending on the situation. I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.